Hey, in this video, we're picking up where we left off from the first video, and we are still in section 6.3. I'm asking you here to factor completely. In the problem 4x squared plus 31x minus 8, we worked that in a previous video. So we're starting with 6x squared plus 19x plus 10. My factors of 6, the number in the front, would be 6 and 1 and 3 and 2. And my factors of 10 on the back are 10 and 1 and 5 and 2. Looking at my factor pairs, I've got a 6, a 3, a 10, and a 1. Those are all my big numbers. So let's try that 6 with the numbers from the back. If I tried the 6 with a 10, that's going to give me 60. That's too big. If I tried the 6 with a 5, that's going to give me 30. That's a little closer, so that's a possibility. But let's jump to the 3. Looking at my 3 times 2 factor group, 3 times 10 is 30. That's still a little big. 3 times 5 is 15, and 15 is closer to 19. So when we get ready to do this one, let's try 3 times 2 and 5 times 2. It may work, it may not. To make up the 6x squared, which was on the front, I'm going to use 3x times 2x. And it did not matter if your 2x was in the front or your 3x was in the back. Let me say that differently. It does not matter if you chose your 2x to be in the front set of parentheses or the 2x to be in the second set of parentheses. If your factors at the end are out of order, for mine, that is just fine. Okay, going back to the problem, the number that we have chosen to use for 10 would be 5 and 2. Remember, I can't put a 2 out here in this second set because it already has a 2. So that means that the 5 would have to go there and the 2 would go in the front set. So let's try our rainbows. This first rainbow gives us a 15x. That's the outside group. And the second rainbow gives us a 4x. 15x plus 4x would give me a 19x if both terms were positive. So, looking at the signs in the problem, it does tell you that the signs are the same because it ends with a positive. That means the signs are the same, and that means they're both positive. So my answer is 3x plus 2 times 2x plus 5. Okay, our last one on this page is 3x squared plus 22x minus 16. For this 3x squared, my only choices are 3 and 1. So that should be pretty easy. I know in the parentheses I'm only going to use 3x times 1x. But the numbers for 16 the factors of 16 are many. So you can choose 1 times 16, or 2 times 8, or 4 times 4. In order to choose my numbers, I'm going to try to multiply them by the bigger numbers in the 16 group. 3 times 16 is 48. That's too big. 3 times 8 is 24. That looks promising. 3 times 4 is 12. So since 2 times 8 seem to be the closest fit, let's try it. So I'm going to put my 2 in the front and my 8 in the back, and we're going to try it. So when I make my rainbows, I get a 24x from the outer term, and I get a 2x from the inner term. And when I simplify those, that gives me a 22x, which is what I'm looking for. But that's a 22x if my signs are different. And since it ends with a negative, my signs are different. In order to get a positive 22, I need the 24 to be positive and the 2 negative. 24 was made up of 3 times 8, so I need that to be positive. I need the 2 to be negative. So my answer for that one is 3x minus 2 times x plus 8. The second way that I'm going to work this, maybe trial and error didn't work for you, so I'm going to work it a second way, and that's by grouping. So we talked about grouping already in section 6.1, and so you can go back and look at those if you'd like, and you've got some steps there on your sheet. So I'm asking you here to factor completely, and I'm asking you to factor by the grouping method. So my problem is 8x squared minus 22x plus 5. Grouping works like this. You're going to take your leading coefficient, which is 8, and your constant on the back, which is 5, and you're going to say 8 times 5 is 40. You have to be really careful with your signs here. This problem ended with a plus. So if it ends with a plus, that means the signs are the same. Now, since the signs are the same, you can tell what the sign will be by looking at the first term. So by looking at the first sign in the problem. So since you see a negative 22, that means both will be negative. So when you list your factors of 40, make sure you list them with same sign, both negative. So that what makes up 40 would be 1 times 40. Remember to use same sign, both negative. 2 times 20, same sign, both negative. 3 doesn't go. 4 times 10, same sign, both negative. And 5 times 8, same sign, both negative. In that group, I'm looking for which group adds to give me a negative 22. So the group that adds to give me a negative 22 would be a negative 2 and a negative 20. So the way that grouping works is you're going to rewrite that trinomial by splitting that 22 up into 2 and 20. So it would be 8x squared minus 2x minus 20x plus 5. If you wrote your negative 20x first, that's just fine. The ordering is not important. You'll get the same answer at the end. Okay, now it's just like grouping that we did in earlier sections. So I'm going to group my first two, and I'm going to group my second two. In the first two, they have a 2 in common and an x. So I'm going to factor that out, and that leaves me with 4x minus, I take out the entire 2x, which means I need to hold the place with a 1. In the second group, what they have in common is a 5. But remember my rule, I want you to always take out the third sign. So my third sign here was negative. So to make up a negative 20, I already have the negative, so all I need is a 4 with an x. To get a positive 5, I say negative 5 times negative 1. And that's how the grouping would go. What you have in common at this point is a 4x minus 1, so I'm going to bring that to the front. And when you pull that out and bring it to the front, what's left over is 2x minus 5. Now that's a different spin on these hard trinomials. On your test, I do not care how you work them. You have to find a way that works best for you. Since my file is getting large, I'm going to stop here. We'll pick back up with the other examples in just a little bit.